Adam, all the slates said, you know what? We're making the main slate at 1 o'clock. Normal years, they would have made it at 4 o'clock. There is one game at 7 and one game at 9. So this Saturday, no really main slate at night. That's it. The Saturdays going forward, there's going to be the random 2 or 4 o'clock game here and there. Mostly 2 or 3 6 o'clock games, and then 7 o'clock or later. So, hey, of our 10 Saturdays we have for MLB, this is a unique one. Adam, we've got 2 days under our belt thus far. We'll, as we're gathering people and getting these tweets out, we'll wait for our hardcore analysis to jump in here. But talk to me a little bit about what did you have to dust off? What have you remembered, and what have you learned the last 2 days? I have a couple things I learned the hard way.
Yeah, it's always kind of, especially I think with a sport like baseball, because there's so many moving parts if you're as far as trying to get to the lineups that you want, because obviously you're trying to leverage the field on different stacks without doing anything too stupid. So yesterday I definitely ended up with more of one particular team than I would have liked. I had a lot of Colorado stacks, which they were a team that I thought was fine. They were going to be low owned. They had some upside, but it wasn't a team that I felt like I needed to be building my entire night around, but that's pretty much what happened. So it's kind of just tweaking some stuff and trying to remember tricks that I normally do to try and get my exposures where I want them, which can take a slate or two to get there. But other than that, nothing crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of that was my little rude awakening as well. Ended up the first night I just sort of dabbled, didn't do a whole lot because it was a 2-game slate. The fields were massive, so I was just poking around here and there. DraftKings has come out again today with a win no matter what contest. It's a 3-entry max at $3, so you want to jump into that. Yesterday, FanDuel overlaid well over $1 million on their large contest, which I don't know if it was a surprise or not. I mean, it was like I'm going off memory. I think it was like 1.3 million entries. You could only put in 150. It shouldn't have been a surprise to them.
There's no way they thought that was going to fill.
Yeah, but why weren't they just giving out massive numbers of tickets this whole time in their free sim games? Which is surprising.
The weird thing to me isn't even that they did that. If you want to take $1 million, it's a marketing hit, really. But the thing for me is that it's not consistent with what they're doing with all their other sports. They're sizing their contests in every other sport so small that they're filling 2 days early, and then they're just oh, here's $1 million free for baseball. It's just really weird.
Yeah,
in general,
very unique. And then let's see. Fantasy Draft aborted their slate. They had come back redoing their style. They're no longer a subscription. I think they're back to rake, but you get rake back depending, like everybody, you're just opted in to getting it back depending on your volume of play. It looks like I've only skimmed their stuff, but they aborted their slate halfway through. They were about maybe 2/3 full. I don't know if they had technical difficulties. FanDuel experienced technical difficulties coming into the second slate. You could not edit your lineups. DraftKings had HOU II as a pitcher on the late slates and showdown, but the main slate, he was an outfielder. Then they came out with a notification and said he was not going to be scored as a batter.
Yeah, that was a really bad decision, I think.
That was horrible. So we're all working the kinks out. I mucked up on my stuff. I was trying to chase a little bit of overlay. My spotlight hitters and stacks articles, perfect. Talked about the Houston Astros bottom third of their order. They did well. Mentioned that Matt Olson was fine in lefty-lefty matchups. And then I barely played any of them because I was so busy screwing around with the Boston and the top of the Houston order, etc. So we'll see. We had MLB got they had their little muck up show. Tony didn't realize that as the last out of the 9th inning in a tie game, he was the one that was going to start out on second base. So it's all around. We're not pointing fingers. I'm in the glass house too. I had my foibles. Clearly everybody else did, but we're back. We've got a nice runway of 2 months to sort this out. Well, we really need to sort it out in the next few days, but we're back. Adam, we have sports. Things are looking good thus far. Feels good. But as we saw today with the pivot for the sites deciding that 1 o'clock was going to be their main slate, in every other situation, they would have made 4 o'clock their main slate. We're going to have to be prepared to pivot ourselves and may not have as much information coming from them or they may be trying different things and not letting anyone know. So there we are on that. All right, let's go and have some fun here, Adam. I probably should have opened a few of these things, but reminder, a couple cool things that we have. There's an Awesemo scholarship. So for those of you who are students, we have just announced our annual Diversity in Sports Media Scholarship. If you are currently enrolled as a full-time undergrad at an accredited college or university in the U.S., you're eligible. Applications will go through May of next year. So I'm going to drop this in there. There's a little typo on one of the dates, but let me put this in chat. This is kind of interesting. So for those of you that are in school or know anybody in school that's looking for some sports media access, this is kind of like, think of it as a paid internship of sorts, but definitely check that out. It's a scholarship. And we just announced that. So on to the fun here, Adam. We've got, let's see, FanDuel is doing a 13-game main slate. SuperDraft is doing everything for their main slate. And then DraftKings is going with the first 11. So the difference between DraftKings and FanDuel's reaching up and getting those 2 5 o'clock games. There will be sub-slates, I'm sure. DraftKings will break it out as they normally do. FanDuel, who knows what they're doing because they have not posted their other contests they usually do after their main ones log. So let's go to my favorite page and get going here. So first game, Adam, we've got Yu Darvish. We've got Corbin Burnes. Corbin Burnes made 4 or 5 starts last year. He had been an amazing pitcher out of the bullpen, phenomenal strikeout rate, but a whole lot of on his underlying numbers thus far, Adam. He's going against the Cubbies. We have an 85-degree day here, light breeze out to left field. As we want to remember, it seems that the reconstruction and the new scoreboard and some of the rooftop viewing areas have changed a true Wrigley wind day of what would happen, 6, 7, 8, 10, 20 years ago. It's not as much now, but we got to keep a little bit of consideration towards that. And then Yu Darvish coming in at 10,500 on DK. People are here for you, Adam. Take it away.
Yeah, so we saw obviously a great outing from Kyle Hendricks yesterday against Milwaukee with the complete game shutout, highest scoring pitcher on the slate, I believe, with like 45 DraftKings points. Now you get a better strikeout pitcher in Yu Darvish going up against the same Milwaukee lineup. It's obviously not a bad lineup, but there are some strikeouts in it. The scariest part as far as for Darvish is at the top where you have obviously Christian Yelich and then you have Sogard, who is not a great hitter, but he is good at driving up pitch counts. Trying to find information on Darvish's last start. It looks like he got hit hard by the White Sox, but he threw about 60 pitches. So I'm guessing that you're looking at around 80, 85 pitches today, most likely from him, maybe a little bit more. Makes it a little tough to get to that price tag, I think. Corbin Burnes on the other side, he had a good start to his first major league start last year, and then just started giving up home runs left and right. He really struggles in particular with left-handed power. So I think the Cubs lineup is pretty concerning for him since they have 6 lefties in there. Rizzo and Schwarber, both really dangerous bats from the left side. Burnes apparently put a lot of work in the offseason. He looked good in the spring, was hitting 98 miles an hour in his last start. I do expect him to be on a bit of a pitch count as well. He threw 65 pitches in his most recent start. So overall, I'm not too interested in the pitching in this game.
Right. And that's just a reminder kind of here for what we're going to do is we're going to focus a lot on the pitching here for the DFS strategy show. What that does is it lets us know who we're targeting as our pitchers and who we want to target against. Something that we've seen over the first 2 days, we don't know how long some of these guys are going to go in games. So we saw Scherzer, Paddock, not sure. Scherzer went reasonably well and probably would have gone a little more, but they had a rain delay, ultimately canceling the game on open or what did they call it? Finishing an early game. I'm not using my words right because this happens so rarely. But he and Corbin both got, or not Corbin, good God, he and Garrett Cole both got complete games. But they were probably each going to top out around 6 innings. We saw last night Verlander didn't go nearly as far as we thought. And then we had Kyle Hendricks because, of course, why not have Kyle Hendricks have a complete game shutout. I think it was a shutout. What do they have? Like 11 strikeouts. So Hendricks is someone that we've always from the DFS world kind of been, he's not that great of a pitcher, blah, blah, blah. He's got good metrics. He has nice strikeouts. The problem with him is he never goes beyond 6 innings. Last night he went 9. So who knows? So we want to consider that, especially when starting pitchers are each going to get between 10 and 12 starts this season. We need to understand that maybe allocating a lot of our dollars into that may not be worthwhile with these abrupt or somewhat shortened outings, because, hey, why risk your people this first week? So that putting a lot of capital into Verlander last night and some of the others, didn't work out as well as we had hoped. But then there's others that were phenomenal. So Shane Bieber. Bieber fever. I am a believer. That was
his outing was a bit abbreviated as well. I think he threw like 84 pitches.
Yeah. So just keep an eye on that. Yes, it is the middle of the season. It's really not, and weather is kind of a factor as well. So just monitor all of that. I say that as we head over here to Adam's Baltimore Orioles. Alex Cobb, Martin Perez. Cobb's kind of been injured most of the last 2 years. Really hasn't thrown much. He was with the Rays once upon a time, was he not, Adam?
Yeah.
Signed a big 4-year, $50 million deal, I think, and then has basically been hurt for most of it. So he's going against the Red Sox, play the Red Sox. Martin Perez on the other side, a little bit interesting here, 5,500 on DK. Martin Perez, someone that you always want to pick on, but he's got a pretty decent ground ball rate, doesn't have a ton of fly ball tendencies, doesn't necessarily strike people out, but the double play seems to be his friend, and he doesn't get blown up like we would like to think so. So he is a potential where we can play on both sides of this one. Adam, we got a couple sub-K pitchers here on DraftKings. This is right in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, I'm not really interested in Cobb. I mean, obviously, it's a really tough matchup against the Red Sox. You have Mitch Moreland and Alex Verdugo back in the lineup for Boston tonight. So a couple more left-handed bats in there. And since the start of 2018, Cobb has struck out 16% of lefties, 14% of righties. He has one good swing and miss pitch in his splitter, and that's a feel pitch. So it's something that, maybe as the season goes on, it's something we want to pay attention to. Maybe he can get back to the pitcher he was with Tampa when he was much better than the recent version. But for now, I'm going to assume that he's still not very good, and it's a really good spot for the Red Sox. On the other side with Martin Perez, if I am going to one of these two pitchers, it would be Perez. Still not an exciting spot for him, facing a ton of right-handed hitters. Chris Davis is the only lefty in the lineup for the Orioles, and Perez isn't a high strikeout pitcher either. Last year, he struck out about 18% of right-handed hitters that he faced. He does a pretty decent job of limiting damage, only a 150 expected ISO to righties last year. So at 5,500, if you can get, 5-6 innings of hopefully, no more than 1 or 2 runs from Perez, he can pay off that salary if it allows you to get good bats into your lineup. And the opportunity cost is slightly lower since there are so many pitchers on relatively limited pitch counts right now. But still, not a pitcher that I'm actively targeting because I don't think the strikeout side is really there.
All right. If you're looking for bats in this one, particularly from the Baltimore side, is it kind of one-offs, perhaps, maybe fillers, complimentary stack just based on the pricing? I know you like Anthony Santander. Santander. I'm going to get that one right. Anybody from the Orioles, and then, we already know everybody from the Bo Sox.
Yeah, I think targeting some of the Orioles is fine. Like I said, Perez does a pretty decent job of limiting power, but he does pitch to contact, and you do have some right-handed power from the Orioles. Since the start of 2018, Renato Nunez has a 206 ISO against left-handed pitching. Santander has a 205 ISO. Austin Hayes should be a good hitter. He's leading off. So I think that, if you get to some of those guys, it's fine, but it's not like it's going to be a priority for me.
All right, moving along here in the interest of time, we now are on to our 2 o'clock games. There's only 2 1 o'clock games, but again, that is when the main slate is starting. For SuperDraft, they are doing their full 15-game slate, so you'll want to check them out today. We've got a little SuperDraft promo that I'll talk about in a moment, but the Twins, let's see. Wow, Max Kepler 2 home runs last night. Then Max Muncy did it on the late slate as well. Got everything started correctly. They're going against Dallas Keuchel right now, who is a lefty ground ball specialist, but the Twins mashed the lefties. Twins also set a Major League Baseball record with 307 home runs last season. On the other side, Randy Dobnak. I'm guessing is he some sort of opener in this one? That's the other thing that's tricky to tell on some of these where they're starting guys. And I did not see as much talking about, just pure openers. It's just looking at you, Giants, and a couple other teams. What do we know about Dobnak going against the Chi Sox, who have adjusted their lineup a little bit, but do not have Yasmani Grandal in the day game after the night game? So they're a little bit less formidable than they were last night.
Yeah, I mean, Dobnak only struck out about 19.5% of hitters last year, so not really interested there. It is a dangerous White Sox lineup as well. So not looking to either pitcher in this game. I have a ton of respect for both offenses, and neither pitcher is a good strikeout pitcher. I do like the bats here. You have Dallas Keuchel, who has made a career out of getting a lot of ground balls and limiting power, and that's fine. But when you look at how much power is in this Minnesota lineup and that they're relatively inexpensive given how much upside they have. Looking against left-handed pitching since the start of 2018, Nelson Cruz has a 368 ISO, Garver's over 260, Donaldson's at 233, Sano is just shy of 300, Kepler's at 203. There's a lot of power here. And so I think that targeting Minnesota is favorable because they should be able to put the ball in play against Keuchel. And then on the other side, Dobnak not missing a lot of bats either. So that plays up to the strengths of guys like Yohan Moncada, who I really like here. You have Encarnacion in the middle of this lineup now as well. So I like the Minnesota side a little bit more, but I do think Yohan Moncada in particular is a really good one-off.
Right, now I know why that caught me off guard. It was the Rich Hill start. Hey, he's in midseason form, already getting pushed back. Looking at, let's see, he had been dealing with a sore elbow. That was from at the beginning of July. There's been no information on why he was pushed back, if he's going to the disabled list or anything of that matter. But we'll have to see if he's going to be reinserted in the rotation. But that is what happened to the Rich Hill start. Oh, interesting. All right. Anything else you want to focus on here other than guaranteed rate field is a reasonable hitter's park?
No, nothing really beyond what I already said.
Okay, let's continue. Our next one here is going to be the Pittsburgh Pirates at the St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals let us down, but guess what? Let's go back to them today. We are looking at, let's see, near 90 degrees for first pitch, 70% humidity. Let's not forget that the stadium is nestled right by that little creek called the Mississippi River. Hot and humid, that's home run weather. Trevor Williams is adequate, but not really a number 2 starter. Adam, set me straight on this one. I was trying to channel you last night. As I was looking at this. It looks like Trevor Williams to lefties throws more fastball changeup about 70% of the time, and then to righties it's more fastball, and then I believe it's sliders.
Yeah, fastball slider to righties.
What do we want to do here? Because guessing Colton Wong, Tommy Edman. At the top, Matt Carpenter should be playing day game after a night game, although he's old. Got some nice lefties there. You've got the Pauls, Goldie and DeYoung. They've got phenomenal power in righty situations. You've got Williams, who had about, I think he had like a 1.2 home run per 9 rate, but that is a little bit susceptible. He does allow about a 40% combined fly ball rate, upwards of a 30% hard hit rate. That combined with the weather, I'm feeling good about the Cardinals. I want to go back to them today.
Yeah, I think that they're in a pretty decent spot. Williams does struggle with home runs, like you said, and it's a day game in July in St. Louis, so the ball should be carrying. He allowed a 226 ISO to lefties, 232 to righties last year. The only real issue that I have with the Cardinals is that I do expect them to be a really popular stack. Looking at the top stack tool right now, they're projected for a lot higher ownership than their top stack percentage. And I think the reason for that is that optimizers are going to spit them out a lot because with the exception of $4,900 Tommy Edman on DraftKings, the most expensive player is Goldschmidt at $4,300. They have an implied run total over 5. So it's a really, really good value stack, which means that ownership should be driven up. But I do think it's a good spot against Williams. One other thing to watch for in this game, and it's not really actionable for today, but it's something to keep an eye on, is that Trevor Williams is working on a curveball. He threw 27 of them combined over the last 2 years, threw 6 of them in his most recent start. So it's at least a new pitch to keep an eye on, see if maybe he starts to get more swings and misses.
All right. And then on the other side, we have the venerable Adam Wainwright. 9,200 lofty price point there on DK. Not really sure I'm interested in him as a pitcher at that price point, and we're not knowing for sure how long he's going to go. We'd probably guess somewhere between 70 and 80 pitches would be my guess.
He's stretched out.
Oh, is he fully stretched out?
Yeah.
How do you feel about him being stretched out at 9,200 on DK?
I think the price tag is still more expensive than I want.
26 on Yahoo. Let's talk Yahoo pricing for a second. That's a steal.
Don't remember how their pricing works.
25 is the minimum salary for a pitcher.
Yeah.
He's 26. By comparison, Yu Darvish is 49 today.
Yeah, I mean, if you were cheaper, I'd have more interest on DraftKings at 9,200, but not a lot of strikeouts in the Pirates lineup, and Wainwright himself, not a great strikeout pitcher. So, the pitch count is appealing, but it's, I think, going to be tough to actually roster him. I do think Josh Bell stands out as a good one-off. Wainwright allowed a 216 ISO to left-handed hitters last year. Bell, of course, is the only real power bat in this lineup. So I like him as a one-off.
All right. Keith Woodford in chat says, it's not near, dude. It is 10 a.m. here. It is 90 right now. St. Louis is on fire. Satan is the damn landlord. That is a funny there. Good work there, Keith. I like that one. All right. Moving along here, we've got Toronto at Tampa Bay. So now we're gearing into our 3:00 game. This is where we don't have any of the starting lineups just yet. That's something else that you'll want to think about, because we're not going to have the starting lineups for most of those 4:00 games at the at lock here for contest, and then we won't, especially on FanDuel, those 5:00 games. So you want to be able to pivot. You want to have plans in place to change things. And then you do have the luxury of it. If you just want to set up some of the later teams on FanDuel, you can go in and selectively create some lineups based upon how things are coming out. I did that a little bit last night for their contest that had the overlay because I was running out of time. So I went in and played a fair number of people on the late slate, just logged in Shane Bieber and went from there. So just think about that. One way to go if you are in a mad scramble. Moving along to our game, it's the Toronto Blue Jays in Tampa Bay. You've got Matt Shoemaker. I like to call him the cobbler. He's coming over from the Angels. You have Ryan Yarbrough, rather an interesting play, 7,300. Looks like he'll be more of a starter this year. I say that hesitantly, than kind of the probable long reliever guy that they did. But hey, it's Tampa Bay. Who knows? They could just insert an opener at any given time. We do like Bo Bichette, Kevon Biggio, Vladdy Jr. They have some nice hitters there, but it is Tampa Bay. Excellent hitters or pitchers park there in Tropicana Field. Talk to me about the cobbler and Ryan Yarbrough.
I'm really, really interested in Yarbrough here. It's a tough matchup against Toronto. Obviously, they have a good young lineup. They have a lot of right-handed power with guys like Bichette, Guerrero, Grichuk, potentially Gurriel. But the park is favorable for pitchers. And the biggest thing for me is that we do have so many pitchers on this slate that we're expecting to be limited, to somewhere between 70, 80 pitches in that range. You have a $7,300 price tag on Yarbrough, who threw 87 pitches in his last exhibition start. They've said he's a actual starter this year. So I think he has one of the highest pitch count projections for this slate. He's someone that you can feel good about if he's pitching well, his ability to go deeper into the game. And the price tag is really favorable. So it's not a good matchup, but the salary is favorable. The fact that he can go deep into the game is favorable. And the Blue Jays do only have an implied run total right around 4. So it's not like it's exceptionally high. So I will be going to Yarbrough quite a bit just because I think that he projects as one of the better point per dollar pitchers today.
All right. And one thing to keep in mind a little bit here with the Blue Jays is individually, they do have quite a few good hitters. Last year, we saw collectively, they didn't all get it going the same game at the same time. That probably happens a little bit of inconsistency there with their trio of phenoms. Lourdes Gurriel, a couple other guys that are decent, veteran like Randall Grichuk, et cetera. So while they look a little more formidable on paper, at least last year, they did not generally all put it together at the same time and result in destroying your pitchers. Your pitcher, if they can survive on a couple solo shots or maybe 2-run homers, no issues there. So that's something to consider here. The other thing you want to keep in mind is it seems like they're going to be on the road for most of their games. I say on the road, they're going to be going in Buffalo for their air quote home games because the Canadian government has said, sickies not allowed into our country for short stays. So this is an interesting thing. They were trying to work out deals with Baltimore, Philadelphia, or Pittsburgh. The reason Pittsburgh came up was they have a couple former Blue Jays front office people running their show now. So it'll be interesting to see how long they stay pitching out of the minor league affiliate in Buffalo. It's a reasonably sized stadium, but it's still not full, major league dimensions. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind as we're moving along here. Looking at, is there anybody you'd think of for the Rays as hitters today?
Not that I think I'll really be prioritizing. Brandon Lau is expensive, so I don't think I'll really get there. Hunter Renfroe is always okay as a one-off just because he does have so much power, and Shoemaker does give up home runs. But I don't love Tampa. You do have potentially a good value play with Sugo at 2K flat on DraftKings.
All right. And he does have third base outfield eligibility there. Moving along. Hey, who saw Aaron Nola losing and the Phillies losing on opening night? I certainly didn't. Miami said, hey, doesn't matter to us. We're young and we're just going to come out here and not care. We've got Caleb Smith coming in at 6,900 there on DK. That's a very nice price point, literally, because he is a decent strikeout artist. Does have some talent, but this is going to be in the upper 80s, low 90s here for Philadelphia. It is going to be humid, somewhere between 60 and 70% humidity. And the Citizens Bank ballpark is decent for home runs. Keep that in mind. On the other side, you have former Met Zach Wheeler checking in at 10,000 even on DraftKings. He is getting the Miami Marlins dynamic price bump. Do you want to spend 10K on him in today's matchup?
I want to double back real quick because I think I undersold it. Every single projection system on FanGraphs has Tsutsugo with an ISO above 200. So getting him at a minimum salary, assuming he's in the lineup against Shoemaker, is the best value hitter on the slate.
Okay.
As far as Wheeler goes, if you can get to him, I think that's fine. It's obviously a good matchup against Miami. He's a good pitcher. The price tag is a bit expensive, but I like getting to him where I can. And the problem is that it'll involve using cheaper stacks, and so you'll probably get some higher ownership on those lineups. On the other side, I think that in tournaments, Caleb Smith's interesting because it's a real boomer bust spot for him. Last year against right-handed pitching, he allowed a 259 ISO, and this game is in Philadelphia, so you expect him to have more home run issues than if it were in Miami, but he did also strike out 27% of hitters. There's good right-handed power in this lineup with Hoskins, Real Muto, McCutchen, Segura, all hitting from the right side. So I think it is a really, really dangerous spot for Smith, and that's reflected in the 5.2 implied run total for Philly. But at the same time, as far as just raw strikeout stuff goes, there's not many pitchers, or you're not going to find many pitchers in his price range that have the same kind of upside. So it's definitely a risky play. It's a spot where in lineups where I don't have Smith, I do like getting to these Philly power bats, but he does give you a higher ceiling than most pitchers priced around him.
Right. And then, the hitter's not really favorable in this particular spot, in my humble opinion.
Wait, which hitters?
Philadelphia going against Caleb in the strikeout.
I like the Philly hitters.
You do like them. Okay. Let's calibrate that. Will they make your top 5 teams that you're focusing on of the 22 on the 11 gamer here?
It depends how the top stack tool ends up looking and some stuff. But I do think that individually Hoskins and Real Muto really stand out. Like I said, 259 ISO to right-handed hitters from Caleb Smith last year, and then the park downgrade for him. So if he's not on top of his game and getting swings and misses, then home runs become a real issue for him. And there's a lot of power in this lineup.
All right. Sounds like you said top stack tool. Adam, are you setting me up for an ad read? I see what you did there. Always the company, man. You've got a little promo code here I want to mention to you guys. It's called Restart. One word, RESTART. If you use that when you sign up for a 1 month premium package, you will get it for $45. That is every single sport, $45. That's a 1 month package. That is a steal and a half. We have basketball starting on next Friday. WNBA is gearing up. We've got hockey right around the corner. We're in the mix with baseball, both Korean League and MLB. We've got NASCAR. We also have League of Legends, Counter-Strike, Call of Duty, and what's the little soccer? Rocket League, which that was the one game I did not play over the break. I had to draw the line somewhere, but definitely check that out. Promo code RESTART. Get a full month, all access for $45. Best part about that, you're in the Slack. What's so good about Slack? Unfettered 24/7 access to one Adam Ship My Money Scherer. He loves getting DMs from everybody. Keep that in mind. All right, Adam, let's move on. Adam's silently dying inside, but hey, there we go. Colorado, apparently your favorite team last night, going against Mike Minor. Minor is coming in at 9,000. We've got John Gray on the other side, 8,100. Reminder that this is not the same Texas ballpark at Arlington. I believe it is the field at Arlington or something. What I forget what it's called, but it's got a roof.
Globe Life Park.
Globe Life Park. It's got a roof that can come on and off. It's convertible, if you will. So that means if it's going to be super duper hot, it's not going to be Texas balls flying out of the stadium. That's something we want to consider and not just blindly pick this one. So even though it's going to be in the low 90s today, we'll have to double check and see. I believe last night the roof was closed. You can always find out from El Negro Loco, the news god, as we like to call him here at Awesemo. He is checking out that sort of stuff for you. You've got John Gray. You've got Mike Minor. Let's just operate under the assumption that the roof is closed. How do you feel about those pitchers?
I think that it would be a pretty appealing spot for Gray, except for he only threw 63 pitches in his most recent exhibition start. So while an $8,100 salary for him outside of Coors is normally something that's interesting, I'm a lot less interested here just because I think it's unlikely that he goes too deep into this game. For Mike Minor, I think he's priced up a little higher than I would like. I don't think it's a bad spot. I do think he's a good pitcher, but only a 22.8% strikeout percentage to righties last year, 24.5% to lefties. I'm expecting a right-handed heavy lineup from the Rockies, a couple of good righties in there with Story and Arenado, but mostly it's a spot where I think I'm not really interested in either side, pitching or hitting.
All right, then let's head over here because we've got an interesting one in Atlanta. We've got 90 degrees here, in Citi Field, Atlanta versus the Mets. 90 degrees here. You have a couple southpaws on the mound. Max Fried going against Steven Matz. Steven Matz at $7,200 here is going to be under consideration as a SP2. However, tough matchup here going against Atlanta. You've got Acuna, Albies, Marcelo Zuna has been added to the squad. You've got boomer bust Adam Duvall, and then you have Freddie Freeman, always good against lefties, though recovering from a bout with COVID-19. So we will have to see how much that impacted him. He did not have mild symptoms. He was not asymptomatic. He actually, in his own words, said, "I'm not ready to die yet." That's how high his fever got. So, that is going to have some lingering effects for people. It will impact the different sports differently. Baseball, not quite as intense as perhaps basketball or football, but it doesn't mean you're not going to be tired standing out there at first base all day. Potentially he could be the DH, although I suspect that'll probably be Adam Duvall. Do you like either of these pitchers in our situation here, Max or Matz?
Not on either pitcher. Fried's normally a pitcher I really like getting to because I think he has really, really good stuff, but he's another one that I'm concerned about the pitch count. Atlanta has said that they're planning on limiting their pitchers early on, and he's not at a price tag where you really can afford that. Sitting at 8,700 on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he is 7,500, so a little bit more favorable price tag there. But obviously, you still run on FanDuel. You need your guys to go 6 innings, and you can only roster one pitcher, so it's still hard to prioritize or to get to Fried. On the other side, it is an okay price tag for Matz, but I just think it's a really tough matchup for him against Atlanta. Like if I'm going to that price range, I'd rather take my chances on Yarbrough than Matz. He does struggle with right-handed power, allowed a 194 ISO to righties last year, and that's pretty much all that's in this Atlanta lineup, assuming that it's the projected lineup and we get Acuna, Albies, Ozuna, Duvall, Riley. These guys all have a ton of power from the right side. And then Freeman, the only lefty, is a good hitter as well. So it's not a spot where I'm really interested in Matz. One thing I think worth pointing out is that prior to last season, Matz had always been really, really bad at holding runners. Last year, he did a better job. He only allowed 9 stolen bases. So I still think that you'll see guys like Albies looking to run, but it's not the free stolen base that it used to be.
All right. This is about the halfway point. So give a little quick shout out here to our friends over there at SuperDraft. It's the future of daily fantasy sports. They've got the multiplier system. So it's not salaries, it's multipliers going, enhancing their actual fantasy performances. So what you've got is someone like, last night, Justin Verlander had a 1 multiplier, but Ross Stripling had a 2. So Stripling's points were doubled. All of a sudden, where we might not be looking to play Stripling in some of the other sites, we definitely are considering him there at SuperDraft. Same thing with the hitters, particularly those in the bottom half of the order. Oftentimes, they will have a 1.4 multiplier going against them. That makes home runs worth a ton. So how do you use the Awesemo promo code? Well, it's Awesemo10. That's Awesemo10. With your first deposit, if you put $10 in and enter the promo code Awesemo10, Awesemo10, they will match your $10. If you put in $100, they will give you $20. This comes in the form of Super Cash, which is the site currency and available for immediate use into any contest. Definitely check that out. They had a little bit of overlay last night. Today, their contests we are 2 hours out and they are about 30% full. They have the $10,000 Moonshot. It's a $12 contest. They've got the $1,000 Triple Play. That is a $3 contest. They have the Solo Shot, which is $1. And then they have, for those of you looking for a little thriftiness, the Nickel, which is, wait for it, a nickel to enter. You know which ones I'm playing. It's fun. Had a nice little night over there, thanks to Ross Stripling last night. We shall see where I end up today. All right, Adam, enough of a timeout there. Let's get on to the second half of our contests. Dylan Bundy going against Sean Manaea. Sean Manaea, 10,000 on DraftKings. That is pretty expensive. He is 7,800 on FanDuel, much more palatable there. And then he is 33 on Yahoo. That's a reasonable price as well. These two teams had the first extra inning games last night. It ended up being a walk-off grand slam by Matt Olson that took things home for the hometown A's. Bundy, former Baltimore Oriole. Manaea, someone you've been looking at for a long time here with the underlying metrics. Do you have anything crucial that you want to point out for us in this matchup?
Manaea is another one not expected to go deep today. He was limited to 65 pitches in Oakland's final exhibition start. The Athletics said that they were looking to limit their pitchers at least early on. So expecting 75 to 85 pitches from Manaea today takes him off the board on draft completely. On FanDuel, it's a better price tag, like you said, but it still really limits the upside. And it's not like it's a great matchup against the Angels anyway. So it's another spot, though, where I do think it's a start that you'll want to pay attention to. Sean Manaea worked a lot in the offseason on improving his slider. He threw it 22 out of 65 pitches in his last start, which is about 33%. That would be a pretty big uptick from what he's done in the past, and it's something that could potentially lead to better strikeout numbers from him. So definitely a start to pay attention to so that we have that information going forward, but not a start where I'm expecting to roster Manaea today. On the other side, for Bundy, it's a tough matchup against Oakland, but I think a couple of things do work in his favor. For one, the weather here shouldn't be as hot as it's going to be in a lot of these other stadiums. So that should help to mitigate the home run issues that Bundy has, the weather in conjunction with the fact that it's a park that doesn't really play up power. And then on top of that, you have most likely a right-handed heavy lineup from Oakland. Looking at Bundy last season, he struck out 28.5% of right-handed hitters compared to 17.5% of lefties. So I think it sets up as a spot where it's not like it would be surprising if Oakland does damage because they have so many good hitters, but there is legitimate strikeout upside for Bundy here, and it is a park that should suppress power. So I think Bundy at a $7,700 price tag starts to come into play in tournaments as a high upside guy.
Right. And then with regards to hitters, if you're on DraftKings, again, I don't know what they're doing, but they're still having issues with Shohei Ohtani. So your mileage may vary on that one. You can play him on the other sites, but a lefty-lefty matchup here. They have mentioned that they're targeting to have him pitch on Sundays this season. That way he'll have 6 days between starts. He may or may not play that first day before or the first day after. We'll have to find out more about that, but that's one little call out I've got there. The other one is, do you know how old Albert Pujols is?
84.
84. Close. He's 40. Age 40 season for Albert Pujols. Not overly exciting there. Some interesting one-offs there from the Athletics. A lot of power. Not as many lefties for them this year. They've obviously got Olsen, probably a backup catcher, and then maybe an outfielder to be named later. But I guess they're looking like a pretty righty-heavy lineup this year. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Moving on to our next game here, it sounds like Logan Webb is going to be the starter/opener for San Francisco. The Dodgers have a 6.3 implied run total. It's going to be kind of hard to consider Webb in any format, in my opinion, even with that price point. On the other side, we have Alex Wood, 7,800, going against the Giants. We have seen that the Giants' offense is very, very pathetic without Brandon Belt, Buster Posey, etc. What do you want to do here with the pitchers, Adam?
Yeah, not interested in Webb in what's obviously a brutal spot against the Dodgers. Wood, clearly another guy in that upper 7K range on DraftKings that I'm fine getting to. Throw him in there with Bundy and with Ryan Yarbrough as I think good point per dollar options. It sounds like Wood is stretched out. You obviously run into the issue of even in regular seasons, they tend to baby him a little bit. One thing to keep an eye on with the Dodgers, though, is that they, in the past, one reason that their starters don't go deep is because they pinch hit so often. That's obviously not going to be a thing this year with the DH. So maybe we do see these Dodgers pitchers really getting more longer leashes than normal. But either way, at 7,800 for Wood in a really good matchup against the Giants, only a 3.3 implied run total. I think that Wood, clearly looks like one of the better point per dollar pitchers.
All right. So you're saying, no, I'm not even going to go there. Never mind. We'll save that joke for another day. We have some interesting hitter options here. I say that because the lineup is so darn deep here for the Dodgers. You've got Pollock at the bottom of the lineup, Kike Hernandez, who has kind of become more than just a lefty hitting specialist. He's actually done reasonably well against same-handed pitching last season, and then about the back half of the season prior to that, Jock Peterson with immense power. And then you've got Bellinger. Mike Muncy already has a 2-home-run game on last night. Mookie Betts. This is a lineup that just never stops. Are the Dodgers likely your number one lineup today with Kike Hernandez, if he's in the lineup at 3,300 on DraftKings, second base, outfield eligible there? And then who was your call out from? Who was your 2K call out?
The guy on Tampa.
Tampa, thank you. Yoshitomo Sasuko. Between those two guys, you can kind of get the top end pitching or the top of the Dodgers as a main stack here. How do you like the Dodgers under those circumstances?
Yeah, they obviously look like a top stack. They're up there, I think, with Boston as the two teams that you would expect to be the highest scoring on the slate. Obviously, it all comes down to ownership and roster construction and all of that. So it's too early to say, if they will be my highest owned stack, but I'll certainly be happy if they are. Webb last year struggled in particular with actually with right-handed hitters last year, which is weird, but also a small sample size. You would expect him to typically be normal and struggle with left-handed hitters, which the Dodgers obviously have a lot of, but overall just really good hitters top to bottom in the Dodgers lineup. Not a particularly good pitcher in Webb, so I do think the Dodgers look like one of the best stacks.
All right, dropping the spotlight hitters and stacks article into the YouTube chat. That is a free article, will be offered all season by yours truly. Much like last year, I will highlight a stack for each of the slates. So we've got 4 of them today. We've got the main, we've got the afternoon, we've got the evening, and we've got the late slate. So check that out. I am usually trying to find a little bit of a teaching moment in those, so it's not always going to be the obvious stacks. I usually don't talk about Coors Field, and like the last 2 days I've said play Boston, but let's look at some other stacks so we can find a little bit of differentiation. So check that out. It's a good article. You also get a nice article, a couple of them highlighting different things throughout the day from T McBee, Terry McBride, who has called home runs the first 2 days of Major League Baseball. Opening day, it was Mike Stanton. Yesterday, took extra innings, but Matt Olson got it in style there with a grand slam, walk-off grand slam. Check out those free articles, and then those also have the various promo codes and offers we have both for Awesemo and for our affiliated sites. So check out that information. Adam, we're continuing along here. We've got 5 more. We've got Seattle at Houston. Taijuan Walker, hey, back with the Mariners. Guess what? That really doesn't mean a hill of beans. He's been with, did you realize he had been with Arizona? I believe it was the last 4 seasons. Shocking that it had been that long until you realize the last 2, he managed to pitch just 14 combined innings. Not very many. He always has good strikeout numbers. He is never healthy. Here was my interesting takeaway for him. He has a career 1.2 home run per 9. All of the projection systems, the BAT, the CODA, I'm blanking on the other 2.
Steamer.
Thank you, Steamer and Zips. So all 4 of them have him with a 1.5 to 1.6 home run per 9, and he's playing Houston. I like Houston. Don't like Walker. What do you want to do there with Walker at all? Is he someone to keep an eye on because he will get the pitch in AT&T Field now, or is this someone, or T-Mobile Field, or is this someone that you're just writing off as a potential gas can every time he's on the mound?
No, it's definitely someone I want to keep an eye on because he's talented, or always has been, and we really have no idea what to expect this season. How much has he lost over those last couple of years? He's coming back from Tommy John surgery now, so certainly someone to keep an eye on because the potential is there. He's always been viewed as a high upside arm. This obviously is not a spot where I'm looking to go there. He's only 5K on DraftKings, but he is facing the Astros. Seattle's going with a 6-man rotation early in the season, so they're limiting their starters. It's not a spot where I'm going to, but I certainly want to see how he looks. That said, my expectation is that Houston gets to him here, and they're another team that is right up there, with the Red Sox and with the Dodgers as far as potential upside goes. So really, I think I'll end up preferring just whichever of those teams is getting the lowest ownership. I feel least confident, I guess, in the Astros out of those 3 teams, just because we know that Alex Cobb isn't going to be throwing 98 miles an hour and be lights out. We know that the same goes for Logan Webb. There's more uncertainty around Walker, so it makes me a little less confident in the Astros, but the upside is still really, really high.
Yeah, and that was the bottom of the Astros order was one that I had called out in the Spotlight Hitters and Stacks article yesterday, and they came through nicely. However, they weren't on very many of my rosters, so very sad there. But I think if you're looking for a little differentiation or on the 4 o'clock slate, you can look to a wraparound stack there as well once again. Lance McCullers going against the Mariners. Mariners 3.5 implied run total. Mariners lineup is not good. Kyle Lewis, though, took old Justin Verlander deep last night. He had six home runs, I believe, last year. I think he played something like 18 games last year. And congratulations, you're now hitting cleanup for your Seattle Mariners. Nobody here really scary on the Mariners. We should see Shed Long at the top of the lineup. You have Dan Vogelbach, who's capable of hitting a home run at any time, but you've got Lance McCullers Jr. on the other side here. Ground ball pitcher, did have some strikeout upside at various points in his career. That seems to come and go depending on his pitch mix. How are you feeling about Lance McCullers, 8,500 on DK?
Favorite DraftKings pitcher on the slate for me.
Ding, ding, ding. Write that one down, everyone.
He missed he missed all of last season. But in his most recent exhibition start, he went 5 innings through 75 pitches. The article I read said the expectation was for him to get to around 90 pitches today, which is enough for an $8,500 McCullers. On top of that, you have a great matchup against the Mariners. In 2018, McCullers struck out 31.5% of left-handed hitters. The projected lineup for Seattle has 6 lefties in it. And if you go hitter by hitter, the strikeout numbers are really favorable for McCullers. You have about a 26% strikeout rate for Vogelbach. Austin Nola's at about 27%. Shed Long's at about 27%. Kyle Lewis, who you mentioned, former first-round pick, he spent most of last season at Double-A, where he struck out 29.5% of the time. It's just a spot where McCullers should be able to have a really, really good start.
All right, we've got a couple other pitching intriguing options here as we're wrapping things up. We're into the 5 o'clock games, so we are leaving the DraftKings main slate behind. These two are still on the FanDuel main slate, and then I'm sure the sites will probably have a 2-game 5 o'clock slate. So worth paying attention here. We've got Ivan Nova, not very exciting at all. We do have, God bless Cincinnati. They put their lineups out more than earlier than anybody else. So we get Jesse Winker at the top, Joey Votto, Eugenio Suarez, Mike Moustakas, who I really like, Nick Castellanos, who's amazing, a $2,000 Akiyama there in the outfield. Freddie Galvis, switch hitter. I believe he got one home run last night, but he's coming in as well. So some intriguing options going against Ivan Nova. On the other side, you have an $8,000 Luis Castillo. I know Castillo is somebody that you look at quite a bit. Adam, the Reds are 2-1 favorites. Detroit has a 4 implied run total. It is going to be 90 degrees. There is going to be some humidity here. No wind in the Great American Small Park. Talk to me about Luis Castillo for starters.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Castillo. It's not a bad matchup against Detroit. He's a really good pitcher. Last season struck out about 30% of lefties, 28% of righties, did a really good job of limiting power as well. Only a 118 ISO to righties, 162 to lefties. He is more expensive on FanDuel at $9,800, so he's $1,800 more expensive than Lance McCullers. I think that Castillo projects a little bit higher, but that point per dollar, McCullers is probably the better play. So it starts to become an ownership and a roster construction consideration in tournaments. But I do think that Castillo is one of the, if not the highest raw points upside on the slate. On the other side, Nova against the Reds, not really interested there. Reds have a near 6 implied run total in Great American, and they have plenty of power in this lineup. So I'm not looking to go to Nova. I'd rather go to the Cincinnati Bats.
Any of the ones standing out, or just kind of the top 6 or so?
Moustakas at 3,200 at second base looks like a really good value, but in general, the top 5 or 6 in the lineup look really good.
All right. Hey, shout out to Cameron Maben, back where he started. What is this? His 13th year in the majors. He has played for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams, and this is his 3rd stint with the Tigers. There you go. Fun with numbers, fun with history, fun with a baseball. 3 to go. We've got the Royals and Brady Singer going against Mike Clevinger and the Cleveland Indians. We saw the Beebs really crush the Royals. How are you feeling about Clevinger, who is arguably a better pitcher than the Beebs?
Yeah, I think that Clevinger looks like a good option. It's a favorable matchup against Kansas City. The biggest issue for me, I think, is the salary. On FanDuel, Clevinger's $10,400. So you're talking about $600 more than Castillo. You're talking about $2,400 more than Lance McCullers. Clevinger is really good, obviously. I think we saw 84 or 85 pitches from Bieber yesterday. I would expect around the same for Clevinger here. He threw 80 in his last exhibition start, where he did get lit up, but obviously we're not going to be too concerned about that. I think that expecting around 85 pitches is fair, and it is a good matchup, good strikeout stuff for him. Another guy where a lot will just come down to projected ownership. Like, I think that if all things equal, just take the $600 savings to Castillo or the $2,400 savings to McCullers. But if all the ownership is going to go to McCullers, and you can be different by getting out of that price range and going to Clevinger at the very top to be contrarian, it's certainly a consideration.
We have 1,000 people who have tuned in to watch Adam be tormented by me. Let's give Adam some thumbs up here. We've only got 110. Come on, he deserves more than that. He's forgotten how much he doesn't really enjoy doing shows with me because it's painful. Although we didn't get Hangover Adam today. Perhaps in 2 weeks, Hangover Adam will make an appearance.
Yeah, I don't know. Not really going to bars right now.
I know it's kind of hard. I was a little sad because I made some jokes about that on the podcast. I'm like, wait, Adam's on lockdown. And then I had some hope because you were drinking like a gigantic beer when we were recording the podcast the other night, but you probably just have one and that's it. So, oh, Adam, sorry. I'm sorry your social life has been curtailed here, but hit that like button nonetheless. Hit it twice just because Adam can't go out to the bars. All right, on to our last couple games. Oh, sorry. Before we do that, the Indians' offensive lineup not as formidable as it once seemed to be. Everybody's a year older. They have they're going to lead off the majority of the season with 4 switch hitters at the top of their lineup. They also play unique positions. It's their entire infield. That's going to be very helpful for stacking. They'll mix things up a little bit depending on sometimes Oscar Mercado may get up there over Cesar Hernandez, but we'll have to see what happens there. And then they've got a couple of like Jordan Luplow will be in there against lefties as the third outfielder. Otherwise, it'll probably be Tyler Naquin or player to be named later here. What do you think with them at a 5.6 implied run total, 80 mid 80s here, 60% humidity in Cleveland? What do you want to do with the Indians bats?
I think they're interesting on FanDuel since there's a really good chance that you'll get them at low ownership with, for one, it being the last game of the slate and the lineup won't be out at lock. And then for 2, it's not on the DraftKings slate. So you tend to see lower ownership when that's the case. Singer's making his first major league appearance. He hasn't pitched above AA. He's a former first-round pick. It's unlikely that he's very good out of the gate. It's more of just Kansas City's not a good team. They have nothing to lose, and Singer's in the majors now. So I do think that Cleveland has a high upside here. They will have a lot of guys with the platoon advantage, like you said, with the switch hitters in this lineup. And then you have Reyes from the right side that has power as well. Looking through the right-handed hitters here, the hitters in general, Santana, Lindor, Ramirez, all ISOs above 235 last year against right-handed pitching. Reyes was at 270. There's still a lot of power in this lineup. So I do think that, especially if you're getting them at an ownership discount, they're going to be an appealing team to go to on FanDuel.
Right. We've got 2 to go here. Our sort of pseudo late slate, we'll just call it the late slate. Nationals are hosting the Yankees. Both teams were off last night after playing opening night. You've got James Paxton and Steven Strasburg on the mound. It is going to be hot and humid here in DC. Even at 7 o'clock at night, it's going to be approaching 90 degrees. We'll be looking at 60 to 70% humidity down in the district. You've got Strasburg. Do you want to talk about the sweat alleged issues? It's not an issue, right? We've determined it's not an issue.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something I buy into. I think that, for one, he's really good all the time. Like, if he actually had those issues, he pitches in DC. It's hot and humid for most of the season.
And Philly and Atlanta.
Right, yeah.
And New York.
Right. It's really difficult to be one of the best pitchers in baseball if you can't pitch in humidity and you play on the East Coast. So, yeah, I mean, I don't buy into it whatsoever.
All right. So now he is going against the Yankees. As Max Scherzer showed, a lot of strikeouts still in that lineup. Of course, there's a lot of power in that lineup as well. On our later slate here, if you were choosing between Paxton and Strasburg, which is there a lean towards one or the other? Or are you going to let the popularity lead you?
I, for one, need to double check pitch counts on them. I haven't gotten that far, but I would lean towards Strasburg anyway, just because I think there are more strikeouts in the Yankees lineup. I think he's a better pitcher than Paxton. He is a little bit more expensive, though.
All right. With regards to hitters, you're looking at 2 phenomenal pitchers here. On the 2-game late slate, we're going to have to pick our spots. My top choices would probably be, I'm going to say Howie Kendrick for the Nationals. On the other side, I feel a little bit more comfortable looking towards Judge, Torres, and Stanton. I don't mind Aaron Hicks, but I don't want to stack against Steven Strasburg either. So this is more of that 2-game late slate, a little bit of game theory, not being afraid to take a couple hitters against your pitchers. And then the Nats bullpen is just not good again this year. So if they can get to the bullpen, even with the extended bench, the arms in it, not great. So that's sort of where I'm looking at that, but everything's a little bit, sort of tentative. And it kind of shows we have about a 4.5 implied run total for both sides. So not dramatic, especially when you consider the weather and the fact that the DH is in play. These pitchers are just that good from that standpoint. Ready to go to the final game of the night, Adam?
Yeah.
All right, here's a fun one that I looked up. So let me get my notes over here. We've got Robbie Ray. Now you can go on each side of this. So I wanted to point out that last year he made 33 starts. In 20 of those starts, he had 7 or more strikeouts. In 10 of those 33 starts, he allowed multiple home runs. Which Robbie Ray is going to show up tonight, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is that he's only $6,900 on DraftKings. So that really alleviates a lot of those concerns. He allowed a 221 ISO to righties, which of course is concerning when you're talking about a San Diego lineup that should have Tatis, Machado, Pham, Will Myers, Ty France. Like there's no shortage of right-handed power in this lineup, but he also struck out just shy of 32%. And at this salary, even if he does give up a couple of home runs, as long as they're not 3-run shots or something like that, he should be able to make up for it with strikeouts. So I think Robbie Ray looks like arguably the best point per dollar pitcher on DraftKings on the late slate. I say arguably because Luis Castillo is only 8K there, but I think it's between Ray and Castillo for best point per dollar pitching values.
All right, and then in that, if you're going against Robbie Ray, are you just considering home run hunting? Would you go with like a 3-man stack? Try to get some adjacent batters there. Hope somebody's on when he gives up the inevitable home run. What's your approach for attacking him?
I think that if you're just making like one lineup or something and only attacking it in one way, the best way to approach pitchers like Ray in general would be going just home run hunting, because when you look at a pitcher that gives up home runs and strikes out a ton of guys, those pitchers typically aren't going to be giving up a bunch of singles and a bunch of innings where there's a bunch of hits and doubles and RBI doubles and stuff like that. It's more likely that you're getting strikeouts and home runs. And so just going to the right-handed power and not worrying about getting 5 guys together, I think makes the most sense.
All right. Anything that you want to bring up here about Dinelson Lamet? Dealt with some. Wait, is he coming off a knee or no? Didn't he have an injury last year?
Yeah, he got hurt at some point.
All right. So he's never really put it all together. He does have good moments at times. He has flashed some strikeout stuff. If I'm remembering correctly, I think he also has okay ground ball rates. It just has never quite all come together at once. We only have 4 pitchers to choose from. What would you like to do with Dinelson?
I think he's got a lot of upside, and the salary is weird because he's $7,800 on DraftKings. So normally when you look at a pitcher that has the strikeout stuff that Lamet has, that's really appealing. When you consider that Luis Castillo, who is a much more proven commodity, is only $200 more, and Robbie Ray is $900 less, it becomes a little weird. But there is still a lot of strikeout upside here. Last season, obviously limited, but a 31% strikeout percentage to lefties, 36.6% to righties. If you go back to 2017 to get a little bit more data, still 27% to lefties, 34.8% to righties. So really, really good strikeout stuff for him. He will struggle with pitch count and control a bit, but anytime that you have someone that can strike out greater than 30% of hitters, there's a really high ceiling. So I think that, I do prefer Ray, I do prefer Castillo, but if the ownership starts to drastically go to those guys, then Lamet becomes a good tournament pivot because the ceiling is just as high.
All right. Adam, I'm going to talk about some other stuff here. Look at your favorite 3 pitchers on DK for their main slate, and we'll circle back on those in just a moment. We'll remind everybody to use the promo code RESTART, RESTART. That will get you half off 1 month of all access Awesemo premium content. That works out to $45 for the next month. We've got it all. Everything is coming back. NHL, We obviously have baseball, WNBA, NBA. You've got League of Legends, NASCAR, PGA. We have articles and projections for all of the single day slates for PGA and the weekend tournament or weekend contest. Those have been phenomenal. I have not had a good showing with my 4-day contest, but I have been able to sort of tread water by having decent days on those single game slates. So that's definitely something you want to check out here. Everything's coming into full swing, so we're helping you out. Get a little stretch that dollar. Promo code RESTART. So $1.50 a day to get everything that you want. All right, Adam, let's talk about circling back for your top 3 DK pitchers, and then we've got ownership up, so I'll talk about that too.
So I'm going to cheat a little bit because I don't think there's a substantial difference between Yarborough, Bundy, and Wood. And I think that I'm going to end up just kind of bouncing around between all 3 of them as my SP2. Lance McCullers is my clear number 1.
All right. We are going to look at just pitcher here on DK. Right now, where it stands, we have Shoemaker is 24%, Gray is 22%, Mike Minor is 20%. There's your first. Alex Wood is 20. And then we've got 7 guys between 12 and 15. That's going to bounce around a little bit throughout the day, but you're getting, Yarborough in there, Bundy in there, etc. So perhaps things will be spread out a little bit. Again, this the pitcher, all of our projections update throughout the day. Plus, what we're seeing for our projections, there's a whole host of things that go into that. Social media, other analysis, what we think is going on, where we think the industry is going to kind of land with everything. So those will tweak throughout the day. We'll find out more information as who's maybe on a bit of a limited pitches or who's potentially coming in as a probable long reliever. Those will update throughout, but that's your DK look. If we look at FanDuel here, we've got Clevenger at 29%, Castillo just shy of 20%, and those are by far the top 2 standing out. Then you come down to Zach Wheeler at 10%. So it's kind of a 2-pitcher focus today on on FanDuel. If we move over here to the what do we want to do? Let's quickly talk about top stacks. Perhaps that is updated. Boston, number 1. Houston, number 2. Minnesota, 3. Dodgers, 4. And Philadelphia, 5. That doesn't seem too out of line. Boston and Houston basically doubling the Dodgers and Philly. So it's kind of a 2-horse race there up at the top.
Yeah, Houston looks really appealing when you factor in the ownership because their aggregate ownership is projected right now to be lower than the Twins and the Dodgers and the Phillies and the Red Sox, even though they're the second highest stack. So I think that's going to be a good spot to go to in tournaments if that holds.
Right. Let me just make sure that our producer knows we're wrapping up here. But we also have MMA tonight. So there will be an MMA show up until lock. You're going to get Pete the Heat Rogers there, who, wait for it, actually does some MMA fighting, and Jason Floyd, who you will be seeing on more shows hosting. He's going to be hosting half the Early Bird podcasts for us. I will have the other half, and those, of course, are free. You definitely want to check it out. We're splitting out the different sports on the podcast streams. So if you're just subscribed for one or the main one, we're branching it out to the other sports. So if you go into your favorite streaming service, Apple, iTunes, Spotify, Spreaker, Podbean, whatever they are, just look for Awesemo, and now you're going to see a bunch of other choices. Subscribe to those separately. What we're trying to do is not completely overrun the main channel there. So for those of you, we have not gone away. That's where we are. One thing that is going away today, there's not going to be a MLB live before lock, since we had thought they were going to go with the 4 o'clock games as the main slate, and they're just doing the 2 late slates. So that will be it for MLB shows. But we'll be on tomorrow, leading up to lock, special debut with the new pairing that has never been on the Awesemo airwaves. That will go off at about noon tomorrow, and we'll take you up through lock, and then post lock we'll talk about the 4 o'clock slate there as well. But with that, you can follow Adam at Ship My Money DFS. I am at EMac DFS. It is, of course, Awesemo_COM. Hit that like button on your way out of here. And with that, gamers, good luck.